Hello there. It is another Middlemen session where we don't just talk, we probe. In a country where silence is survival and questions feel like rebellion, we dare to ask anyway. We dig beneath the headlines, strip away the slogans, and confront the chaos we have all learned to live with. Our jurors are ever ready to speak truth to power with their punchy cases. Juror Henry Igwebuike exposes how real estate companies are scamming unsuspecting Nigerians by selling promises instead of properties. His case titled Real Estate Fraud and the Silence of Regulatory Authorities calls for a serious reform and a system that protects buyers. Juror Olajumoke Alawode-James reflects on how Nigerians react to President Buhari's passing in a case titled Rest President Buhari. The case highlights the pain many still feel over his time in office, from injustice to broken promises and questions a culture that asks us to stay silent even in truth. Juror Emeka Madunagu challenges the rising belief among young Nigerians that education is a waste, arguing instead for its enduring value in a world obsessed with fast success. His case is titled School is Not a Scam. And I, Juror Evans Ufeli, uncovers the deep roots of police brutality, corruption, and the disturbing silence from Delta State leaders. My case focused on the sick Ndokwa protester held in custody, denied medical attention and basic dignity. My case is titled The Injustice Faced by Stanley Ado. These cases and more will be in right after this quick break. This is still the Middlemen, and we'll bring you, and we'll be back later.
Middleman. Middleman. Middleman.
My case. Thanks for staying tuned. The injustice faced by Stanley Ado. The unlawful detention of Stanley Ado of the Light Up Ndokwa protest has thrown a glaring spotlight on the alarming issue of police brutality and negligence in Nigeria, particularly within Delta State region. As every citizen has the inherent right to life, liberty, and security, the Nigerian police force must be held accountable for their actions or lack thereof in protecting these basic rights. The refusal of the police to provide medical assistance or grant access to treatment is not just an affront to one individual. It is an indictment of the entire law enforcement system meant to serve and protect the populace. On July 16, 2025, Stanley Ado took ill, a situation that should have prompted immediate medical intervention, especially given that he was in police custody. However, the police opted to ignore his deteriorating condition while asking us for a 200,000 naira bribe to attend to him. This corruptive negligence highlights a fundamental problem: the prevalent disregard for human life and dignity, particularly among those who have fallen into the hands of the law enforcement agency, is unassailable. Police force appear to be more concerned with criminality and maintaining useless authority rather than fulfilling their primary duty to ensure that the safety and well-being of every citizen, regardless of their status or situation. Moreover, it is alarming to witness the silence and inaction from the leadership of Delta State government, the Governor Sheriff Oboruwere and the Deputy Governor Sir Monday Onyema. Their role entails overseeing the operations of law enforcement within their jurisdiction, and their lack of intervention in this matter raises serious questions about their commitment to justice and human rights. The indifference of state leadership to the plight of ordinary citizens speaks volumes about the systemic failure that plagued Nigerians' governance and justice system. The promise made under God to uphold police accountability for any harm that befall Stanley Ado is not merely an emotional response. It is a declaration of resolve by the Ndokwa community. We are tired of sitting idly while our rights are violated, while our voices are silenced, and while our loved ones suffer. The time has come for the community to stand united and demand accountability, not just for Stanley, but for every individual who has been wronged by the criminal justice system. Let the Inspector General of Police, Kayode Egbetukun, recognize the gravity of this situation and take immediate action. His leadership is vital in the restoration of faith in our police force that has increasingly become synonymous with brutality rather than protection. To the Commissioner of Police in Delta State, CP Aboniwonda Olufemi, your role is crucial in defining the relationship between law enforcement agencies and the citizens they serve. It is time that the police be made to adhere to protocols that prioritize the ethical treatment of detainees, starting with the provisions of medical care. The community of Ndokwa deserve justice. We deserve a police force that operates with integrity and without bias. It is imperative that our leaders heed to this call for the sake of justice. Otherwise, we risk diminishing the value of human life and dignity, which are supposed to be the cornerstone of our society. We owe it to Stanley Ado and every citizen suffering in silence to push back against the systemic failure. Your silence is complicity. Your inaction is a betrayal. Let us rise together in the pursuit of justice, accountability, and a better society. Ndokwaba Mama, I shall go to Rabbi again.
Ndokwa Mama.
Ndokwaba Mama, that is, let Ndokwa be great. Or let Ndokwa be good.
The perennial issue, actually, and this speaks to the issue of moral disengagement. That is when those in authority detach ethical feelings just to promote their violent traits. That's what we've seen with our Nigerian police force. And apart from that, we have issues like desensitization, where they totally remove their emotions, just to promote the violent acts that they give to people. So this is not a new thing coming from the Nigerian police. It's been there for quite some time. I guess what we should rather be talking about here is how can we, if possible, retrain our Nigerian police force? Because the truth remains, it's not like they don't know how to treat people that are within their confines. They understand how to do that. But the problem is because of the institutionalized violence that we have, you see them becoming part of the rot that we try to, if possible, reduce. I do not know how we can solve this holistically because it's been there for quite some time. And I do not know.
Without trying to malign the Nigerian police, whoever named them the Nigeria Police Force, putting force in their name, knew that they were established as a as a system for the oligarchs to hold on to power, right? They will never treat a Dangote, even if he commits a crime, like the way this gentleman has been treated, But the politicians like the Nigerian police force like that. That's why they will use them as escorts. Have 4 or 5 of them, go everywhere with them. If there is a threat or of attack on them, they want them like that. What we need to do, because government after government, we've spoken about reforming them. In 2020, we went all out, saying, you must end SARS, end Nigerian police force, end this, end that. They changed their name from SARS to SWAT. Nothing changed. It is still the same mentality. What we need, I think, is to leave them to be escorting politicians the way they are and create community policing, right? Where each community, is in charge of getting its own vigilante groups and things like that. Have them maybe trained by the military or paramilitary. Have them be able to carry small arms, maybe, I don't know. But because, by the time you start to put arms into the hands of different people in different communities, But again, if you don't know what the next person is carrying, you'll be cautious when you approach them. But I think that community policing is the way to go, where we're in all of us have estates where we hire security guards to man our gates because we do not trust the police force to be available when there's serious crime. But let me just have 200,000 naira like they've asked them for and accuse him wrongly now. They will come and carry him first, detain him, torture him to the extent he will confess to what he didn't even do. And we've seen that happen over and over and over. That's why when we pray the prayer, may Nigeria not happen to you, it's because of situations like this.
But don't you think at the same time, even as we speak to Nigeria as reference, if you go to Kenya, it's still the same issue, right? The police brutality. Just the last concluded a protest that they did, about 10 people were killed. Larry Madunagu, the CNN reporter in Africa, he was in Nigeria, in Enugu, when he learned that the police force had warned that he should not come back to Kenya. So he didn't even make it to Kenya as at the time they held the protest there, because he was scared he was going to be arrested. So I do not know, is it an African thing?
Well, there's police brutality in the US, and again, it's usually targeted at the blacks because they profile the blacks, that they're the ones who commit a lot of the crimes. You find a black man even in Europe, you are also profiled, Maybe it's only in the UAE that you see that their police are very friendly, they're more willing to help you, their arms are concealed, Again, Africans have started showing our faces in the UAE to the extent they're banning Nigerians from age 45 and under, don't even come at all. And you must have trillions in your account and things like that. So the point is, there's police brutality all over the world. But where there are no consequences, right? In Nigeria, there's hardly any consequence for you to... The Nigerian police will say to you that I will kill you and nothing will happen. Most times nothing does happen.
Yes.
In all over the world where there's police brutality, you can file a case and the person is maybe punished if found guilty. Some of them will go scot-free because of
damages too.
Yeah, so our policemen keep disappointing us. This case falls under the heat of passion for me because I was directly involved in this whole thing where they were asking for money, and we beckoned on them, 2 lawyers. We had to fight them to the point where we argued up to the CP's office, okay, and they backed down and apologized. But what is important is the intent, the initial intent to extort a man that is in detention to start with, who did not commit any offense, who fell ill in detention. By the laws of this country, if you are under police custody or under any of the law enforcement custody, when you are ill, they are supposed to provide you with medication. When you are hungry, they are supposed to provide you with food. How be it the quality of the food does not matter right now. It is their responsibility once you are under their custody
held you
to provide all you need to stay alive.
Yes.
You understand? That is why the prison authority had to budget so much money for food, toiletries, all those things to take care of in me. Because the moment you are called a suspect, or the moment you are taken into custody and you lose your right to movement and some other rights, you understand? The state now owns you, and the state is supposed to take care of your welfare. That is the law. Whether the state is underfunding the police or they are underfunding, it's not your business. That they are underfunding does not mean you should die.
Very true.
Yeah, they should provide these things, and we made them to understand that they must provide all those things. So when they put up resistance, we too will heighten the situation, and we have to land somewhere.
How is the gentleman doing? Hope he's in high spirits.
Yes, he's doing well, knowing that his people are behind him. First, he did not commit any offense. But the problem is that the state government, because they don't have any case, they are rigmaroling. First, you say that you are charging him for conspiracy. Can a man conspire against himself? Because he's alone, he's the only one. I mean, you say he destroyed railway. There's no railway in Kwale.
Yeah, well.
There's no railway in Kwale. You say he committed malicious damage of property and whatever it is. The police were the ones who came there and introduced violence into the protest and the rest of that. So the charge is a complete sham. And that is why they are moving from one court to the other.
It's very reminiscent of Nigerian police to do things like, as you are mentioning all the situation in this case, it's just reminding me of El Zagzaki. They blocked the highway, they touched the chief of army staff in his chest, the public disturbance, they murdered somebody, and then they held him for years. The court kept on saying, release him on bail. He's ill. He needs to attend to his health care. They helped from 2015 December to 2021 August. He was going back and forth to the court.
Back and forth. So
almost the entire length of Buhari's tenure, 8 years.
They will tell you that Buhari didn't know about
did
it.
well. That is the conversation I had in one of the teams when we were analyzing Buhari's, and I said
Don't worry, we will still analyze Buhari today.
That he broke laws and all that.
Yes, he was a military man, and his training was not democratic in any way.
Yes, so the police should save us this thing.
Or is it possible that because the police have served for too long under military dictators, they've become, rather than being the democratic way, of maintaining law and order, they have become an institution of forcing people to
a threat to democracy.
Yeah.
The police have been there with their wickedness before the army was even started. The police started in 1930. The army started 30 years after, 1960. You understand? So the police already had their own, they were formed already.
No, but you remember that the colonial police force, right?
Yeah, that's the police force.
They were used against their brothers, if you remember. Which is why I'm saying that the person who named them Nigeria Police Force knew what they wanted to use them for. It was against the people.
But that we've come a long way from that.
Yeah.
And to imagine that Showore is protesting for them.
All of us in NSAS protest, we're not protesting for them.
But interestingly, Canada now has said, the Canadian courts, they've thrown out 3 cases by 3 Nigerian police officers asking for asylum.
For where?
They describe the police in very uncharitable terms.
Yeah.
But they won't learn, and that is the sad thing.
It's been institutionalized for them to be wicked, to be honest. Except you are willing to pay before they play ball.
Okay, we'll go on a short break, and when we return, Juror Henry Igwebuike's case titled Real Estate Fraud and the Silence of Regulatory Authorities will be coming right up. Stay tuned for more to come.
Middlemen.
Thank you for staying tuned. My case, real estate fraud and the silence of regulatory authorities. Now, let me start with the mannerism of Scott Nguma. P1 Real Estate Company, the real estate company that sells receipt instead of land. It is now an anthem that has become the cockcrow at dawn cautionary warning for newbie real estate investors in Nigeria. I know you would love to get the full gist, isn't it? Now, let's get to it. In a country already grappling with mistrust in governance and rising economic hardship, the exposure of alleged fraudulent real estate practices by companies like P1 and others is a harsh reminder of how the dream of home ownership is being turned into a nightmare, particularly for Nigerians in the diaspora. Social commentator Scott Nguma's recent expose revealed how developers use emotionally manipulative marketing, often cloaked in motivational speaking and spiritual appeal, to lure unsuspecting buyers into dubious land schemes. The so-called developers promise instant allocation, government-approved plots, and a state of the future, only for many to discover that they have paid for farmlands, unregistered parcels, or non-existent properties. Worse still, these schemes are not hidden. Billboards, radio ads, social media campaigns, and glossy real estate expos abroad proudly push these offers, yet the government remains disturbingly quiet. Agencies like the EFCC, ICPC, and the Real Estate Developers Association of Nigeria, REDAN, have offered little to no proactive oversight. Even with countless complaints, legal actions are rare, and victims are left to either write off their losses or engage in lengthy, often futile litigations. Nigerians abroad who had hoped to build homes back home now view the country as an investment graveyard, thanks to a system that rewards fraud and punishes trust. The silence of the government is not just complicity, it is endorsement. Now, my verdict. We call for immediate reforms, enforceable regulations, a national real estate fraud tribunal, and proper licensing and auditing of developers, and criminal penalties for deceptive marketing. The credibility of Nigeria's investment climate and the hopes of many of its citizens depend on this.
Yeah, very interesting. But not to counter what you said, I know I can give kudos to the FCCPC, the Federal Consumer Complaints and Protection Commission. Yes, and then I think there's also a case, such fraudulent investment, which the EFCC has successfully concluded. They seized land across from the Federal Capital Territory to Nasarawa State to different places, seized filling stations and all of that, And of course, they say they're going to refund the subscribers. So the FCCPC has also tried, because I have had a case with one of the affiliates of P1. Interestingly, I'm even a P1 business operator.